Hello, everyone. My name is Karl from Bulag Bandit Media. Thank you for joining us today. And I have a really special guest to join us on this show today. So if you would like to go ahead, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? I hope everyone's doing good. My name is Jesus Perez. Um, yeah, I'm from California. Pretty cool. I was born in Mexico, but then I came here to the States. I'm one of Carl's friends. We've been friends for quite a while, maybe like since 2017, huh? So like 5 years. Yeah, 5 years is pretty good. Currently in college, and yeah, right now I'm just chilling.
Exactly. I think that's one of the important things that we learned, right? When we first met is to take it easy. Do you remember when we first met?
Yeah, a little bit. I remember you were like the popular kid at EHC. Somehow you became super popular. And they were like, "Oh yeah, Carl." And I was like, "I want to meet this Carl dude." And then I think, I think we met on the breezeway. Actually, that's what I remember. We were meeting at the breezeway. We were just chilling, and then we were talking about like school and just random stuff about just like random stuff.
The breezeway is basically an area where people like to congregate, and it has a nice breeze, as the name goes. So people like to hang out there at Enchanted Hills Camp for the Blind in Northern California, correct?
Napa, yeah, Napa, California.
Exactly. So we were there, and from my perspective, one of the important things that I noticed were everybody was actually interacting. For me, that was kind of weird because where I'm from, I didn't necessarily have people that were in the same age range as me that were blind or visually impaired. And I thought it was awesome that the fact everyone was actually interacting and talking to each other and how well everyone got along. What would you say?
Yeah, me too. Like when I first went there I went there when I was 13, and it was super cool seeing everyone interact because I guess like I had blind kids at my school, like visually impaired students as I grew up, but like we would only see each other during break, during lunchtime, and then like at EHC it was like a whole like big population of kids, and I was like, damn, what the heck, this is cool, and everyone was super interactive, and it was kind of like they acted like I guess kind of like a big family. Obviously there was like drama once in a while, but it was always fun.
Which we can get to. We can get into the drama in a bit.
Yeah, give on the good stuff later.
For real, but I think okay, what you said there was really important. How did you feel when you were not able to talk to people who were visually impaired or blind like you? How did that make you feel?
Sometimes it made me feel like it made me feel like if I was the only visually impaired student or person, like not on the planet, because I guess well, at first, yeah, when I was little, I was like, oh, what if the only blind? What if I'm the only blind person? Because like everyone in my family was all sighted, my cousins were sighted, brothers were sighted. So I think once I went into school, I was like, oh, maybe there's like a small population, and then I just thought that it wasn't like a big population of blind people like here in the States. And then when I go to EHC, there's like a whole lot of like VI kids, and people, and I'm like, oh shoot, damn, like cool. So I think that's how I was. How about you?
For me, I think the biggest thing for me was that it didn't really exist for young people.
Hmm.
My understanding when I was younger, I thought it was just only older folks, right? Because generally that
Yeah.
happens with older folks and to lose some vision at a certain age or as a result of a certain condition that you're predisposed for when you become older.
Hmm.
Being around older people, it was kind of weird. Not in the sense that I was weird, but because since I was around them all the time, you know how they say if you're around a certain group of people for a long time, you're gonna start acting like them, right?
Oh,
So for me, it was just really odd to see everyone joking and laughing around because all I really understood about hanging out with people who were visually impaired or blind is being very quiet and reserved and
like
mature.
reserved, serious, and just
Yeah,
kind of like these like small talk. Yeah, not a lot.
exactly. I was just really excited. Like, I'm pretty sure I told you this story, right? The one where I'm like, I heard you guys making like a very teenager joke, right? I'm like kind of
Oh,
like
yeah, with Nikki, right? I think I was telling Nikki something. One of our
right,
friends
right,
did.
right. So making like a really like teenager cringe joke, and I'm like, hey, you guys are teenagers.
Yeah.
Up to that point in my life, everybody that I knew that was visually impaired or blind, they were very, how do I say, very very straight edge. A lot of
Hmm.
religious folks. I would never be able to. relax and just be a teenager around them, you know?
No, yeah, I remember you were like, did you just say something about a schlong? I just started dying. I was like, what? I was like, that was shocking too. And then, yeah, I heard like kids say that before, and I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, like blind kids, and I was like, oh, really? And then I think you and I were just talking like dirty jokes and just random stuff. Like we were walking up. It was nighttime. I remember it was nighttime. And I
Mm.
was like, and I just hear someone behind me go, did you just say something about a schlong? I was like, oh shit, yeah, why? And then you were just laughing.
Exactly. I think what we need is for basis for young disabled people, blind people, vision impaired people to have areas in order to just be children. I think that's one of the struggles that I went through early on was, hey, I'm being forced to grow up really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but I still want to enjoy my childhood, enjoy my teenager years, you know?
Yeah, that's how it was at me at home. Like my parents wanted me to mature up fast. Like when I was 12, I wasn't allowed to like play with Nerf guns anymore. Like no, now you just gotta be like either like helping out like with like stuff, just do schoolwork, read books, and like I think part of it was because yeah, they wanted me to mature up and just to like so I wouldn't be like I guess they just wanted me to mature up, but it was kind of like they were expecting me to grow up like super fast, like you said, yeah. So there was times where at school I was really like quiet, really like kind of reserved, mature, but when I went to camp, I was more like loose and just chill, like more laid back.
That's honestly a burden that I think of right away because a lot of the struggles that we have as disabled or blind or visually impaired people is it's always about money. Because the first thing I wanted to do when I got into high school was get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Way earlier than most other kids too, at least from what I remember.
I think I wanted to get a job when I had just like I was about to graduate middle school and I was telling my dad, I was like, oh, let's go get like I want to get a job now. He's like what? And like me being the Mexican that I am, I was like a gardener. And he started laughing. It's like I do that. I like work as a gardener. So I was like, yeah, I want to be a gardener. You know, I could just pull it with my lawnmower, be like, what up, Bato? Can I mow your lawn or something? And then my dad would he was like, no, but he's like, you gotta do school. You can't just be like working all the time. And I was like, no, I could just go to school, work in the afternoons. He's like, no, I don't want you to work. You should just study. Like it's better that way. But I wanted to work, yeah.
Is that legal in California? How old are you allowed to
Uh,
work? Like
like
when is the
I,
age that you're allowed to work?
16. I think some certain places do have like a little like, or they'll let you go if you're 14 or something. Like if it's like a family business, they'll probably let you. But for the most part, it's 16.
I was asking my parents if I could start working like in my freshman year of high school. And for
Mhm.
Hawaii, it's the same thing, like 16, 17.
Yeah, I think the only exception is like if you're gonna work in the school cafeteria, you could be like 14 or 15, and they'll let you work if you're like, because it's for the school, you know, like they'll. I think
Right.
they even that's the only exception I
Do,
always.
do they even pay you though? I've never heard of
Yeah,
them paying school or like cafeteria school workers. Like
yeah,
if you're
that's
a kid.
what was the minimum back like it was like 14. I think back then it was like some I forget it was because right now it's like 15.50, but before it was like way lower. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
they were gonna pay us like the hour.
Because here, up until about middle school, they actually what they make you do is what the experience that I make when I went through that some people may remember is in Hawaii, you actually could or you were forced by the school in order to do school cafeteria work. They would pull you
Like,
out of a class. Yeah, literally, they would pull you out of certain classes out of the day, and you do calf
mhm.
duty, and you had to do it, and it was completely free. In
Oh,
terms of they didn't have to pay you, they did not pay you. It was
mhm.
the worst. I didn't like it.
I can imagine Carl just burning the food on purpose, being like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I'm not getting paid for it.
Hey,
No,
for real, I don't know, man. Hawaii school food. I'm not sure what other people's experience was, but it was really bad for me. Like I never ate school lunch. I always tried to bring my own food as much as possible. Either that or I just didn't eat straight up.
did they give you guys spam at school?
No, I don't think so. Actually, I actually don't think so. But there were people. Yeah, if you grew up in Hawaii, you probably remember this. The people that would walk around school with the Foodland lunchbox, and they would bring their own. They would bring their own musubi, and they would sell like
No.
$1 or $2, like under the table. Yeah, like little hustlers, dude. I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome though, because I was like, yo, free food, let's go. Actually, it's actually nice. You guys
Oh
have
damn.
that?
No, and not like with food. I know my brother did it with sandwiches because like I think he like let his friends try some and he would like sell sandwiches for like $2. And then I used to sell candy and chips back in middle school. I used to like in the like after school because I was in track and like a bunch of the kids were like exhausted. They wanted like some kind of candy, so I was like, "Yo, bro, I got you." And I like open up my backpack and have like a whole like mini liquor store in there, and
Oh my gosh.
they pick up like candies or like just like small drinks and they're like, "Oh, how much is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's like $50, $4." And they're like, "Oh, yo, bet." And they're like, "Damn, bro, you're like a real Mexican, bro. You like sneak things in illegally, huh?" And I'm like,
Oh
"Yeah,
my
bro."
god. That's how bad it gets though. Like when I was in high school, I would work so often I would buy my own food. And it got to that point, like when it was club activities or something, I would always bring food. I'd be like, "Oh, you guys need food? I got you." I go to like Safeway or like kind of like it's sort of like 7-Eleven but better in
Yeah,
Hawaii. It's called Minute Stop. Minute Stop is awesome. They have like fried chicken and like potato wedges and other kind of
damn,
um
that sounds good.
yeah, like kind of like pre-prepared foods, but it's actually not bad. Even for a convenience store, it's actually not that bad. I used to bring that to like events.
Oh, shit.
I was always that guy. I was like, man, I want to eat. So, however, I think it's important also that we have spaces, not just that are only with disabled people or with blind people, that also integrated with um, able-bodied people and members of our community, so they can learn about us. Don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
And how was that like for you? Like, did you do any extracurriculars? Were you involved with any cool things outside of school or school adjacent?
Yeah, like I think well when I was in elementary school I did like the YMCA just to do my homework because I realized I was slacking up at home. But I think when I really picked up the sports was in middle school because I heard how they had wrestling in March and not March man. I did band with the school. That was fun. I played the drums in fifth grade, then I played trumpet in middle school, like seventh grade. I did baritone in the eighth grade. And like I wanted to be active outside of school, like after school. So I wanted to join wrestling, but they were like, no, like you're blind, how can you wrestle? Like that's not safe. So I was like, you know what, fine, like I'll just do track and field then because I could just run. And they're like, how are you gonna run? You're gonna like I'm like, I could just have someone guide me, because that's how I always ran in school. Like I always had someone guide me with someone that was my speed. They would pretty much like I would hold onto their elbow and we would run together.
Mhm.
And yeah, track in seventh and eighth grade, and then ninth grade, I did some track, and then I did a marching band sophomore and junior year, and then wrestling as well.
So how did, I guess, the musician part come out? Because I think there's the stereotype, right? The stereotype is obviously like, oh, you're blind. Why don't you like work as a
I don't
musician, right?
work at these- Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Like, have you ever been approached with that kind of stereotype before?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, since I was little, I think I remember one time I was like at my house like in Mexico with my grandma,
Mm.
and my dad and my dad called me. He's like, hey, like mijo, like why don't you learn like the piano? And like he bought me a piano for Christmas, and like I had it at Mexico, and I would just like slam the keyboard, like just pound on it. But I never like liked the piano, but I think over time I just kept hearing like, oh, like you should just do music. And then like I honestly liked the idea of like playing your own music or just playing someone else's music just for fun because I like music. So I think I picked up the trumpet and the drums because the drums were cool. Like you could just smack things and just have a nice like beat with things like rap and rock. Use a lot of drums. So I think that's where I picked it up. But I know my grandma wanted me to learn piano. My dad wanted me to learn guitar, but I don't know. I didn't like learning guitar because I felt like my fingers would hurt because of the strings and stuff, and like I wasn't used to them. So I
Hmm.
think that's why. And I would mess up on the chords too. So I'd be like, oh no, like I don't want to do this. Like let me do something else that I'm good at. So I did drums, and like that was fun.
When you said you joined marching band too, can you
Hmm.
explain how that works?
Yeah. So like I guess like a lot of you guys have seen marching band. So like pretty much people like march in the field and they play. They have certain choreographies. But I think for me, like as a blind person, since I like they weren't sure how to help me march because when I had to march, I'd have to like follow the group and stuff. So they had me play in the front line on the pit, like with where all the marimbas and stuff are at, and then just they had me play like the cymbals, the snare drum, like pretty much like just like a they call it the rack, and they have just like all stationary instruments where I don't have to march. I just have to like chill and just like play the drums and the cymbals, and that was fun. Like I loved it because I know like a lot of kids would be stressed. They're like, oh my god, bro, like I'm so stressed out. I'm like, why? They're like, yo, dude, I gotta do my dot book. I forgot how to do this or the choreography. They just added some stuff and switched some stuff up. So for me, it wasn't like that. I was like, oh damn, I'm kind of lucky I don't have to do that because shit, that would be scary. Like you have to memorize your music and then you have to memorize like all of your like dance moves and positions and choreography. And for us, it was just like memorize the time we played and our dynamics, and that's about it. But it was always fun because I got to like hang out with all of my like other like band members and stuff.
When I was under the impression when you told me that you were a marching band, what I had imagined in my brain was that you were also doing all that crazy stuff and the stunts because I've seen very interesting marching band stunts before. I have a friend in Southern California that actually does marching band or used to. I was really interested to know because I mean, really, we can do anything, and
Yeah,
it's just a matter of finding out the information and the specifics and tailor making it for how
for
you
us,
need
yeah,
things done, right?
yeah, because everything is pretty much like the way I see it is like if I did the choreography correctly, all I needed to do was just measure the time and distance between certain areas and different things, and just listen to the music and know by where I'm supposed to be. And I think it's just all about measurements. That's how I'd be able to do it. But I did march like we had a parade for Veterans Day, and I remember like I had a trumpet and stuff, and it was fun. I just had someone that was like holding onto my shoulder because I needed both hands to play. So he was holding onto my shoulder. His name is Bradley. Shout out to Bradley, the homie. He was guiding me, and he was like just like helping me stay like in line with the marching band, and just like like he would help me like turn. We only had one turn, so it wasn't that bad. But he would just make sure like he'd like tap my shoulder for me to halt. He'd be like, "Oh, hold up, halt. We're gonna halt now." And it was always fun. It was super cool because it was like at least fun like getting to just march in a straight line
Because
with the whole. That was fun.
overall, in terms of solutions, that's not very difficult, right? It's just they're not really influencing how you're playing the music or anything. It's just I'm gonna
It's
tell
just
you
how
when to stop, when to start, right?
yeah, and like just pretty much guide you around the field. And we were gonna do that my junior year, just have me like play the trumpet for at least like the ballet,
Mm-hmm.
like the slower part of the marching band piece. But then like I needed to come home that day because my parents got into a car accident, so I just came home that day. And, like, it was cool. Like honestly, I didn't mind it. I was like, oh, it's cool. Like it was
That's
just fun.
crazy. Wait, so you
Yeah,
you were in a car accident? How many car accidents
just
have
my
you?
parents.
Oh, just okay. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, I wasn't there. Thank God. Like the whole car got like hella smashed. So
Oh my gosh,
like,
yeah. I recently experienced what that's like.
oh damn, really?
Yeah, so I was like, oh my goodness. When I heard that, I was like, oh no.
Oh man, are you good?
Oh yeah, for sure. But
Oh,
I mean, yeah, it's a very eye opening experience, if you will. It's really trippy. It's super trippy, especially like experiencing it from like the visually impaired perspective because I don't know. I'm not
because you,
sure how. Sorry.
I was gonna say like because you can't see how things go, and you just like you're not expecting
Right.
it because either you could see it coming, so your body tenses up. But for us, we're just super relaxed and just it just happens, and it's oh shit.
Yeah, it was kind of just a very split second kind of thing because I had zero idea it was coming. Like, I guess in terms of like the audio cue and the separation of like me actually feeling it was like probably a couple of seconds to maybe like less than a second, maybe even just
Yeah,
the sound goes off and then boom, right?
yeah, and it feels like it happens super slow, but it's going by pretty fast.
Yeah, I didn't know like the scale of time because once they like took us out of the car and I was like, oh, it's already probably almost.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. Well, there's a lot of like procedural stuff. They have to keep you in there for a while, make sure. But yeah, I was really surprised. I came out and I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh, been at like almost an hour. Continue off what you were saying about doing a marching band. Can you tell me a little bit about how wrestling went? Because that's actually something I'm really interested in. I was actually offered to do wrestling because I was actually kicked off the basketball team, which I can do a video about in the future. Guys, let me know if you guys want to hear about that. But I was offered to do wrestling, but I kind of faced the same question that you brought up earlier, like, oh, how are you gonna do it? So
Yeah.
tell me, how does that happen? How does that work?
So pretty much, I just got a big ass blindfold all the wrestlers, and be like, all right, let's go, guys, find me up, let's go. Nah, just kidding. No, I the way it works is like I have a friend Osvaldo. Karl knows him too. He's really cool, and he was in wrestling
Hmm.
before me, and he has more fight than I do. And he was like, "Oh yeah, bro," like he was telling me how like we just run and stuff for warm up. So for that, I just kind of had someone guide me, like me and Osvaldo guide me because he's really good at guiding. And for like the whole wrestling aspect, like the actual aspect, we have a thing called hand contact or constant contact, where pretty much like hold on, I'll put my phone real quick just like, so I can show you with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm gonna give some description too. So pretty much we do is we have like our okay, yeah. So right before we wrestle, we're like getting ready. So what we do is both like me and my opponent, we shake hands,
Mm-hmm.
and then we both put our left hands with palms up, and then our right hand palm down. So like our hands are mirrored. So like our hands like touch. Well, our hands will be touching. So, like our my opponent's right hand will be over my left hand, and my left hand will be like under my opponent's right hand.
Mm-hmm.
So then we do from there is we like the ref tells us like you always have to stay in contact. You can't if you guys break away contact. I give you guys a 1 second like it's like a 1 second like time limit before we have to like somehow get contact again because if not then you have to stop the fight. So yeah, like when we're wrestling we do that as soon as the ref blows the whistle. I just grab like the wrist or the arm. I start trying to like control the arm, circle them, and then everything else is pretty easy like the whole like what do you call it? Like the whole like double legs, ankle picks, like all of the movements. They're all really simple because it's all like on your body. Like there's no striking, and you can kind of feel the movement of what your opponent's doing and what you want to do. So everything was pretty like just it was all like hands on. So it was really easy for me to learn.
Right. And I think that's also similar to blind judo. Have you heard of anyone who does blind judo?
Yeah, I think I know. I had like two friends that did. I know Kimani is one of them, and then who else did it? I forgot. It was like a kid from LA who used to do blind judo too. But I want to do like jujitsu. I'm trying to get into jujitsu because that sounds cool too.
Right. Yeah. A lot of people here actually do judo because we have a lot of Japanese folks here. It's actually a sanctioned high school sport here in Hawaii. I
Oh
had a,
wow,
yeah, and I had a lot of friends who did regular judo, and when I learned
mm-hmm.
about blind judo, I was very interested. And it's very similar system. So you know how you said that you basically have you already start touching. So in
Yeah,
judo, actually in blind judo, from what I heard, my partner is a judoka, and basically what you have to do is you have to you start with a grip. So you know I guess it's predetermined. I'm not necessarily sure where or how that gets determined, but you start with a grip. Similar situation where you have one grip, you start, and then the match or the round starts, right?
yeah,
And in terms of how the sport works, it's not necessarily that big of a deal. I think like that's one of the important things with um just kind of like sport in general. I feel like there's a lot of sports where there's options available, but people just don't want to explore it. Um, have,
yeah.
have you heard of Isaiah Austin?
No.
So Isaiah Austin was a very high recruit for basketball. He was actually supposed to play in the NBA. He was like at the top of most draft charts. Um,
Oh,
he got disqualified because he had a heart condition. The other part to him was that he actually had a condition where his one of his eyes' retinas would actually detach. So he was
oh,
virtually like playing on one eye.
when I
And he would always wear glasses and what are those called? Goggles, right?
had
So
the goggles, yeah,
so that's what he would do. And I thought it was very interesting how it was very rarely covered that, you know, what his experience was like and his journey through sport and athletics with that kind of condition because I think there's a stereotype, right, that there's only certain kind of sports that blind people can compete in, right?
and
Um
yeah. Or it's not like if we have a blind person, if we have a blind person, or like I just have a person in this sport, they might slow the team down, or they might just make us look bad, or just like I don't know if they could get this or that, like this might be too
exactly.
hard for them. It's always been, yeah, I've always had that. My parents never like let that. Like my dad was always like, no, you go for it, bro. But at school, it was always like that. Like, oh my god, how is he gonna do this? He might run, he might fall.
It's like that's part of the sport. In most sports, people fall, people make contact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah. I think in track too, they were trying to like, I'm like, oh, you're gonna fall, you're gonna trip. I'm like, so like I tripped when I was little. I was like, you tripped too, right? The teacher was like, yes, I have tripped before. I was just laughing. And yeah, like one time my dad came home with a like scraped up knee, but I told my mom it's just part of the sport, and she was like, okay, whatever. If you like it, then it's cool.
I mean, the other part too is like there is a solution, right? And I think
Hmm.
I actually have never really thought about running guides for run because
Yeah,
I think that it's actually harder. In my opinion, I'd say it's harder because you have to synchronize, right?
yeah, you do have to synchronize, and that's the thing that like, so that's what like since I was running pretty fast, I would get like 6 minute miles. I had to get four guides, like one per each lap, or sometimes I'd get like just two guides. But it was crazy because one time I had a match, like we had a track meet, and like I had to run. And like all my opponents, I mean, not opponents, my teammates, like the ones that would run with me, my running guides.
Mm-hmm.
I had three of them. They kind of would alternate. So like when one ran with me, the other two were getting rest, and then they would switch off. And it was crazy because I would be like almost gassed down. They'd be like, "All right, bro, let's go." They try to sprint. I'm like, "Yo, yo, chill, chill, chill." Like it was just kind of funny because I had to synchronize and like it was, yeah, it is a challenge sometimes because like either you want to go faster or they want to go faster. So like we had to. That was one thing we had to work like save about maybe like 30 minutes, like during when we had like free for all practice. I had to like practice with guides and see which guides had like the best mile time or just like their lap round with me, and they would just test it out. Like, oh, try running with this person, with that person. And then there was times where like it would be like a last minute thing. Like we'd be getting on the bus. They'd be like, oh, I see what you're gonna run with so and so now because so and so like couldn't make it today. I'm like, oh snap, okay, sounds good. They're like, yeah, we've seen her or him run. Like she runs pretty good. She's like, I think she'll make your speed. And I've had like, yeah, I made it pretty good. Like I've had like one time I had a team of like girl guides, and it was I think I got like third place that time. I've had a group of guy guides that like around the same, yeah, third, fourth, and then like just mix up of two, and it was cool.
I think it's interesting because you have to actually communicate well, right? And I think that's a
Yeah,
skill. Communication is a skill. Some people think that being able to communicate is just like a natural thing. No, you have to practice it.
we
Even
have
if
to
you're
practice it. Yeah,
even if you're good, right? Like
yeah.
you.
There's always room for practice, like whether it's tonality or just anything.
When you have to go ahead and do really difficult tasks like that, running quickly and to the rules of the sport, it must be a skill that you have as a strength. Because I went over this recently with my therapist, and I think it's like a really important point that, especially being disabled, there are a lot of things that we do that are really skills that we don't necessarily recognize because it's a normal part of our life,
Yeah,
and we have to find what we actually have as strengths because they might not be as obvious or evident as it would be for other people. Moving forward, that's something that everyone should try to explore. What are your strengths? And if you want to tell us, comment down below. Make sure to do that because if we know what our strengths are, we can continue to do what we need to do and do it confidently. Because confidence is a ledge that a lot of us don't seem to be able to jump off into. I feel like sometimes I know I have a difficult time with that. It's really easy to say no, but even harder to say yes.
yeah, definitely.
It's awesome that you were able to say yes and you had supportive people that were there to say that for you, especially because some people might not have that kind of community like we did or that I eventually
Yeah,
had.
like I have some friends where yeah, their parents are super strict. Like, no, you can't do this. You can't see. And then like sometimes it takes like a group of us to talk to their parents, and we'll still say no. There was times where my parents would be like, "All right, mijo, like quit the sport. Like you're getting hurt too much. You just like I don't like how this is going." And then like sometimes I just quit just because I think in freshman year I had to quit track because I was staying up until like 12 a.m. doing homework. So I quit because of that. I just kind of like that. I was like, quit the sport. I was like, oh, you know what? Like, okay, fine. But other times, like, yeah, they would kind of just like it happens where like your parents sometimes they're supportive, sometimes they're not, and you just kind of have to like try to work around it and compromise.
That's all it really is, and that's how problem solving works. It's all
Yeah,
compromise. However, I
yeah,
think one thing you said there that was really important was, "Oh, I'm working up until 12 a.m. in the morning. I'm doing homework. I'm doing athletics. I'm doing extracurriculars." I
hmm,
think a big problem that's happening now is that we're trying to do too much in terms of,
yeah.
there's just so many things that we got to do in order to, I guess, prove ourselves. But I don't necessarily think that's fair. What do you think?
No, yeah, for sure. That's what I noticed too. And I think part of it is like I know a lot of people like they see a lot of stuff on the media, like they're on their phones and they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. Where it's like we're just like way busy. We're like way more busy. Like yeah, we're like busier now than before. So then it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and then it's like we only have 24 hours in a day, and like it's hard because sometimes people try to live the day like there's 25 or 28 hours. It's really hard, yeah. Like sometimes we just have to like sometimes cut some stuff back because that way we because then like if we don't cut some stuff back, we'll just have a lot of stress, and then it's gonna just get like overwhelming.
It's overall worse, right? Like net worse. That's
Hmm.
something that I was running into because, especially being people who need extra time or we have to do things with extra steps, it's not always easy in order to do all the things that society or the media or our peers want us to do. Because
Yeah,
for me, I always felt like I needed to overachieve or to achieve a lot because everybody else was able to do everything so easily, so they're able to fit those things in their schedule, and it worked for them, right? Because they're able-bodied, because they had funds, because they could drive, right? Everything becomes
Yeah.
easier. However, when I'm trying to do the same things, it's not working the way that it does for them because it's not something that I can handle all at the same time, considering the circumstances. People have to be okay with, allowing for that. Because me personally, like I had to learn this later on, like, I can't keep doing this. Isn't it okay? I actually started getting sick, started getting overweight. I just feel like people don't really understand that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen that too. Like sometimes when like I try to like do like a lot. I think like one time I was taking like 15, 16 units consecutively in school, and I was like, oh my god, what am I like? I was like, dude, shit, like I gotta kind of chill because like it's cool because I wanted to finish fast, but it's also like
Hmm.
overwhelming. I see with people like where they all like yeah they start getting like sick, and then like they'll either stop eating or they just kind of they just forget to take care of themselves sometimes because they're focused on like their goals or what they want to do, and then yeah, and then I guess sometimes like it's hard for them to like enjoy life and just enjoy things.
I think it's really important, especially now, because of how everything works with the certain conditions that are occurring now. Like, I may need to get a job or try to
Hmm.
get a job, but is that really feasible or possible with the fact that I'm in school at the same time? And like I said earlier, that might work for some people. They might have the ability to do so. They might be able to drive a car, make it easier for them to get to work. They don't have to walk to work. Um, they don't have to jump through hoops, right?
Like they don't have to plan a lot of like bus routes and stuff like we do.
Exactly, exactly. That's also one of the things that I think people also forgot about during COVID, or the early period of COVID before we had vaccinations and things like that.
Hmm.
We were one of the few groups that relied on public transportation, right? Some people were very lucky that, oh, I need to go out and do something. All right, I can drive, or somebody I know can give me a ride, right?
Yeah,
And it made me really, really, really angry, really, or frustrated that things like COVID services, a lot of them were drive up, right? You had to drive up, and some
come and
places
go.
were exclusively you had to drive. And
Hmm.
what am I supposed to do? What are people like me supposed to do who can't drive legally, right? And then
Yeah,
you have this whole system set up for people who can drive, but we don't have a system that works for us. Because up until recently, that was like the only time that we had openly or readily available mail-in testing. And even then, right, there was that whole scandal about how the USPS tests. I heard about it from the NFB that they're not accessible. The rapid at home test kits that the
oh,
USPS was giving out,
mm,
and
never heard about that. I know that some of them were like I know some of them were like there was the whole like inaccurate ones like some of them were like coming out positive when they weren't, but I never knew that they weren't inaccessible. Like that's crazy.
yeah. So basically, what was happening, a usual COVID test, for those of you who know, it works, right? You stick it in your nose, you go through the whole process, and then the way you find out you're positive or negative or not, if there's like the lines or the colors,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
like
it's
you put the thing in the yeah like in the tester.
yeah, so it's basically kind of just like a pregnancy test, basically, where you know one line if you're. I actually don't know how pregnancy test works, which one means pregnant or not pregnant, but the
Yeah, I
lines,
know.
right, or the color it's supposed to turn.
Yeah,
So what ends up happening if you have blind people who use these independently, some people might not have color. They can't see color. Some people might not have any vision at all, right?
yeah,
And how are they supposed to use it? Was that a consideration by the people who made it? Was that a consideration by the government? Uh, but yeah, I mean, continuing on, like I feel like what's happening right now is, or I know for a fact, what I know for a fact is that in the current conditions that we find ourselves in, we aren't being considered, you know, and we have to jump through loopholes in order to just do anything that we really want. Um, and it's just kind of from this perspective of like, did did somebody think about me or somebody like me when they made decisions like this, right? Like, were there any examples that you could think of or that was happening? Because I think it happens a lot, especially in the school system. You know.
Yeah, school system, like the store system, I seen it a lot in stores. Obviously, we have customer service, but sometimes it's like, what if you want to browse around? And there's no like the tags are probably like either small or just like there's no braille on them, or just I guess like even like yeah, like in public places like schools and stuff. Where I know here like our high school, they're doing a pretty good job. I think they're still working on it, but a lot of the doors weren't marked with the classroom number, so I just kind of had to memorize the buildings and try to memorize certain classes by the teacher's voice and like where the classroom's location and try to remember the number. But yeah, there was that.
That's ridiculous. Seriously, your school didn't have braille numbers for your classrooms?
It had some like for most of like I think it was like half and half. Half of them had like the real like big like the thick square labels, and then
Hmm.
the other half like I think one of my teachers like had to make like braille labels with a sticker and put them on the door frames. We had that.
And that's fairly recently too, right? Like, within your lifetime. So,
Mm,
within the last 5 to 10 maybe years, like, right?
7 years, yeah.
That's the crazy part because there's always people who talk about they defend the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. However, in order for you to get anything done with the ADA, you have to sue,
You
right?
had to sue. And the thing is, a lot of people I know, like at least for here, like in California, San Jose, like a lot of like Latino parents, they're not informed about the ADA until like we tell them. And like that's one thing too. I feel like it's not just here. I feel like it's in a lot of places that where people like immigrate here, they don't know like the resources and what because in other countries it's like they don't really care about. Like in Mexico, I think they're improving, but I don't know how good it is. But yeah, definitely like people are like not informed about it, and yeah, you have to sue in order to get the ADA to do like to get what you want or to get things available.
I mean, listen, if you got to sue somebody, that's really expensive, right?
Yeah,
Because I know some people who had other kind of court proceedings or anything related to the legal system. Their lawyers were really expensive, and it could have been something really minimal,
yeah,
like I needed to hire an attorney to get this traffic ticket worked out, right? How much did it cost them? Like several $100 for somebody who might not have a job or is underemployed if they have a job that doesn't pay enough, right? The
yeah,
statistics show, right? A grand majority of disabled people in general don't have jobs, and that's up to a lot of factors like employers being ignorant or hesitant to employ disabled folks. But that's exactly the point I'm making here is that being able to sue is not the same thing as being able to get the outcome that's necessary because they will try. When I say they, it's opposing lawyers, whoever the corporation that you're trying to go after, or the government will try as much as possible for the help that you need, the remedies that a lawsuit would actually grant you to not go through. Like, have you heard of the Domino's Pizza accessibility lawsuit recently?
was it about their website or what?
Yeah, it's the one about the website, right?
Mm,
Domino's, instead of responding to the claim and responding to the suit, like, oh, we're really sorry, we'll try to make it work for you, make it work better for you, right? We'll
mm,
try to help you from that perspective of care, right? They
yeah,
try to argue against it. They try to, as much as possible, not to get the lawsuit go out of their favor. The important lesson that we can learn from stories like this are to approach from a perspective of care and to make it known to people that they have rights afforded to them, but that we have to do a lot of work to make it easier for us to get help. Because it's one thing to have it written down in laws, right? It's one thing to have it written down, and another thing to make it work, right? For the legislation or the law to have teeth. I mean, are there any situations in your life that you think that would apply to you or would have helped you? I mean, certainly the buildings for sure, right? That would have certainly
yeah.
helped you, right?
I've seen a few websites. Like one time I was trying to like when I had to do something for my like the business that I'm starting up, and like one of the websites was kind of like allowing it was like it had images, so I hit up the people and they're like, oh yeah, we'll put captions on those, and then I think that's it. It's really small, but yeah, mainly the main one is school.
Yeah, I mean the small things add up. I mean, I have my website where I post all of my literature and thoughts, as well as my videos and other cool things that I do. www.bulagbanditmedia.com. Give it a visit. I built that purposely to be as accessible as possible. So instead of having it white, black, brown on white, white text, right? I had it the other way, right? So the background isn't white, the text isn't black, the text is white, and the background is black, so that it's easier contrast for people who have some vision that might be able to read the words on the screen. Or for
Mm-hmm.
example, all of the logos or any site element, it was all made sure I made sure that it was all in text, because if it's a logo that has words on it but it's posted as an image, screen readers won't be able to read that. If it's a JPEG with letters on it, it'll just say it's a JPEG image, right? Instead,
Yeah, unless you have to add like the whole alt text, and it's kind of a hassle. But yeah,
yeah, if you make it just text, it makes it a lot easier, right? You don't have to do alt text because it's text. It's plain, right? It'll be able to say, "Oh, these are words," and it'll read. And then when I have images, I try to include alt text or captions under them, so that you know what the image or the contents of the image are, right?
Mhm.
And something as simple as that can make life so much more easy. One thing I noticed in the continental United States, a lot of cities or regions or municipalities actually have sidewalks that are audible now.
Oh yeah,
But where I'm from, and I know where I've been in Hawaii, Oahu or Maui, there are very few to, if at all, none crosswalks that are actually audible. I can think of probably less than 10 intersections have audible crosswalks. But if I'm honest, all of crosswalks should be audible, so that disabled people can walk everywhere, so that blind people can walk everywhere. You know, there have been
yeah. I
multiple
think
times. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say yeah. I think they're mainly here like whenever I go to like big cities like here or like San Francisco, I see them like in the downtown areas. Like the more like outskirts of the town, they don't really have them, but for the cities. But yeah, I feel like they should all be accessible,
Yeah,
like you said.
because
Yeah.
you know these things could save people's lives. It's a very
Mm,
small thing that you can do, but it could save people's lives. If it could stop somebody from walking into a crosswalk when cars are still actively driving, right? Like, I have some
mm,
vision. I can actually see somewhat. But when there's, the sun out, right? It's very bright. It obstructs my ability to view the opposing crosswalk sign, right? For
yeah.
somebody who's uh, totally has no vision, that wouldn't work for them if there's no audible cue. Or for somebody who has inability to, see color, or they have color blindness, um, they wouldn't know what color the lights are. So to have the
Yeah.
audio cue would make it a lot more easy and a lot more safer. And that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people's lives. So I think we have to, like I said, approach this from a viewpoint of care. And I care about you, my man. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have anything for you want to plug or shout out really quickly before we go?
No, I just want to say like thank you very much for hosting me and like everyone for watching this video and like taking a listen. I'm super glad to like be on the podcast. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, like shout out to Karl. And
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. Everybody, thank you for joining me today. This has been Karl from Bulag Bandit Media with
Jesus Perez.
Have a nice day. Maraming salamat sa inyo lahat.